floor is yours. So now we are giving the floor to Professor Ignacio Blanquer, who is bringing words from the European Open Science Club.
Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you, Roberto, for the introduction. Thank you for this invitation to this very interesting and good event. So my talk will be about the view of the European Open Science Cloud Association and the European Open Science Cloud in general with respect to the open science software, right? So I'm one of the members of the board of directors of the EOSC-A association. I will try to give a view on this. So I believe that most of you are aware of what is the European Open Science Cloud, but basically it has the aim of creating a virtual environment for open access to services, to store, to share, to process, to reuse, for research data and other digital objects involved in the research, especially software. So it has been funded strongly in the H2020 program, in the InfraEOS 2018-2020 calls, and it's being funded in this Horizon Europe program in the Destination 2. So it became all this endeavor in the October 2016 in the creation of a high-level expert group on realizing the European Open Science Cloud. Then it started the implementation through several projects in the InfraEOS call that I mentioned, and officially it was launched on November 2018. The creation of the association, which will lead the implementation together with other actors, was performed in July 2020, and the first General Assembly was performed 1 year ago. So, and as you will see, we just has started the task forces to create and implement all this view. So let me first start with a bit on the past. So in this set of projects, there was an executive board leading the implementation of the EOSC, which created 6 working groups on different areas for the implementation of EOSC, for creating, understanding which was the landscape, understanding or defining the principles for definability, accessibility, interoperability, and reuse of all the digital objects, rules of participation, skill and training, sustainability, and especially one working group was devoted to architecture, in which has an important focus on the software. So being more in detail in this working group. So this working group created a task force that was called on Scholarly Infrastructure for Research Software, delivering a very interesting report that you can access in this link, that was stating the best practices, open issues, and giving some recommendations for the future with respect to the research software management. So basically, the report states the main challenges for research software, covering long-term archiving, covering referencing, interoperability description, and also crediting of authors, and describing what are the needs. Like the establishment of standards, development of tools and services, setting up infrastructures, and outlining that the proper funding is needed for development and paying also the operational cost. The report exposed 6 concrete recommendations on strengthening the interaction between the infrastructure that provide, get these software assets, the advance on the implementation of metadata standards identifiers for softwares, and ensure the proper appropriate citations for research software code to lead an easy adoption of the open science principle in software. So when the association was created, a new model for the governance of the EOSC implementation was created that is based on a tripartite model. In one side, we have the European Union represented by the Commission. We have the European research community represented by the EOSC Association, and the EU countries represented by the steering board. All these 3 together are implementing the way. The association has now 213 partners. 2/3 of them are members, full members with voting rights. 1/3 of them are observers that include organizations that are not from EU member or associated states. and most of them belong to research performing or service providing organizations. So the main principle, the main guidance of the EOSC Association, which also is influencing or is defining a lot the topics in the destination 2 of Stories on Europe, is the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, which is, I would say, a large document which states not only the landscape and the steps to be done, but a very detailed work program, a very detailed work plan to how to achieve the objective of the EOSC. So it states 3 general objectives to basically to ensure that open science will become the new normal, to enable the definition of standards, development of tools and services for find, access, reuse, following the FAIR principles, and to stable and a sustainable and federated infrastructure to support them. I try to depict some of the objectives from the SRIA that are closely related to software, right? So we have on one side the specific objective number 5 that focus on the interoperability framework for the different assets, but especially on software. And then the operational objectives, there's one very important operational objective with respect to software heritage, which is operational objective number 7, the co-development of a first generation of a robust pan-European network infrastructure for software source code, right? So this is one of the objectives that has the SRIA, which is the guiding document for the implementation of EOSC, which is quite aligned. So how do we plan to coordinate this, right? Because we have the projects that are being funded by the European Commission. We have the work that is being done by the different countries on the national basis, also the institutions. So what we from the association put in place are 5 advisory groups, 5 working groups, and 13 task forces. These task forces will be implementing the coordination among the different actors in order to guide on this principle. And there's one that is the Infrastructure for Quality Research Software Task Force, which I'll dedicate one slide. This task force is coordinated by our host, by Roberto Di Cosmo, and also Isabel Campos from the Spanish Research Council. You can access the draft charter there. I believe that the slides will be shared. And the objective of the task force is basically to foster development and deployment of tools and services, as we have said in other places, to share and reuse research software, to improve the quality of research software, and to increase the recognition of the developers. There are 2 specific subgroups that are very interesting for the view of software heritage, in my opinion, which are the group on sustainability that addresses to create the landscape and also defining the blockers and limitations and how to overcome them. Another specific subgroup on quality software services for the EOSC, because it's not only preserving the software, but also ensuring that the quality of the assets is high and follows some predefined standards. Finally, just to end, just to conclude that the EOS aims at fostering the development of open science, enriching publication data and software, following the FAIR principles, and ensure that all these assets are usable by machines and scientists, supporting the federation of infrastructure. No one single infrastructure will be able to deal with that, and considering software as a first-class object along with research data, but also even beyond that, because it's a key element stated explicitly in the SRIA for reproducibility. There's this task force on quality research software that we believe that will be key in order to guide all the development of this operational objective 7. And you have more links there for the association if you have any interest. Thank you so much for that.